So today we're going to talk about Viper because I have an unhealthy obsession with this agent. No, not like that. But you see, there's a fundamental truth about Viper which is different to any other agent in the game. And that is, if Viper wants to be meta on a map, it's very, very simple to do so. All you need to do is find one good setup on the attack side and one good setup on the defensive side, and voila, Viper is now meta on your map. And our best example for this, of course, is Haven, where for the longest time, Viper was not considered good on that map whatsoever. Even during the peak times of super mega OP Viper, she wasn't seeing any play on Haven. But then, all of a sudden, as soon as someone finds one good attacking setup and one good defensive setup, you've got Viper meta, and here we are right now in that scenario. And so, to this point, we've seen Viper get fairly significant play on pretty much every map, becoming meta on many of them. But there is still one map where, sure, Viper's been tried out, but I don't think that anyone has ever really figured out Viper on this map. And I'm, of course, talking about Ascent. But that's not to say that no one tried Viper on Ascent, and for instance, here's Loud's setup, where they went for this attacking wall in towards B main, and this orb here in mid, and the point of the setup that Loud are doing is to make it pretty difficult to op from some of the most common op positions in B main and in mid, as this clip shows.
And it feels like this, they've surely never been closer.
This Viper orb in mid is so good. Pushing back any deep pressure. Drones there, wow, cowers in. Watches it, Buzz as the first death yet again.
And we saw teams like Cloud9 and Paper X do setups like this one, where it's a similar sort of idea, this time just using the wall across mid instead, and putting your Viper orb in B main to do quite a similar job. But the thing is, neither of these attacking setups was perhaps convincing enough to change the meta on Ascent, a very difficult meta to crack. And so that got me wondering about different Viper walls that maybe could be used. But then someone sent me a link to this game, Fancy United Esports versus Oasis Gaming. Because here is the wall that Fancy United Esports were doing across a main like this, and we'll get into why I love this wall so much, but first, let's just see it in action.
This is a mistake, it's a run it back, you can always just reposition, then act again. The one thing that could make it or break it for Oasis here was Marky having the operator in his hands. That's the one thing that could turn the tides. We saw Savvy not have success last map. Are we going to see that happen this time for Marky?
Well, he's anchoring here over onto A. This is going to be the Prowler also looking for a point of contact, so no one close holding here for Oasis. Fancy United susses that out. And you see that smoke, I do believe there's a small gap that they can go for the plant near the tail end of it. So Fancy United, the proof is already there that they have been practicing this composition. It's something that really fits into their playstyle. They're waiting now for that spike before they begin the burst, splitting into A.
There it is. Kellyas much more akin for that A main, and he finally finds one. Marky, though, gets overwhelmed. Draxi still holding the site by himself. Has the smoke, denies him with the paranoia. Does get blinded, can reposition. Fisho's already here. There's the contact, all hell breaks loose. Recon Guard gets a lot of value, but Fisho's not gonna get denied! And Fisho's so near! Is Ace already white? Give it to him, don't you? Yes, he does! Fisho!
So that round provided a couple different things of why the wall is useful, but it begins right at the very start with this. Because here's the one-way in A main. Yeah, nice one-way you did there, defense side. That was really, really helpful, beneficial to you, wasn't it? Oh yeah, we just walked past it, right? And this is a big deal. If you can just walk past this one-way and make this essentially just completely useless, that is straight away a big win. But actually, it goes further than just the defenders not doing the one-way here in A main, because if you think about it, if they're not putting a smoke up here, I can now be on this angle and see them here. Right, which becomes a bit of a problem because now I can create a high-low on this angle, which means that you can't even really stay here in A main at all, right? I mean, again, if I put the wall up, I could be walking up right on top of you as well. So there's just a lot of pressure created by this wall, and even really just the threat of this wall, not even having to use it, creates a real problem where you might just have to give up A main. And then we come to the second thing about this wall as well, is obviously where they managed to get up onto the site. And this essentially gives them a kill, because you'll see as this KO is rotating in, he is never expecting anyone to be on this angle. Think of how many times you've played Ascent and you've swung this angle and you're just staring down towards main, because that's normally where you would be, right? That's normally where you're going to be looking. When has anyone ever been here that hasn't been seen before? Not very often. And so this is the second use of it, is that we can get very, very deep onto the site, and it's going to create problems for those people rotating in. But you might think, oh, well, a lot of the time an enemy KO is going to be playing there anyway, and they're just going to suppress the Viper. You know, that's how we're going to get away with it on this defensive side. But of course, that's the beauty of Viper. When did I ever say that our Viper has to be defaulting in A main? The Viper can be anywhere. But now let's take a look at some other rounds to see how Oasis Gaming tried to figure out how to beat this wall. We'll start off with the first one here, where they tried to put their Killjoy setup there, right? We'll put the turret there, that will tell us if they're coming this way, right? That's fine. Well, this turret has a couple problems, that normally when you put a turret here, right, it's also going to watch down towards short for you. But with this Viper wall, that's not going to be the case. So you actually have to use your alarm bot here, right? The problem is here, you know, if this alarm bot gets destroyed, and again, this wall goes up, you know, there's going to be potential problems there as well for you, that this turret isn't really checking that much. And if you are playing back here, well, guess what? Let's just watch what happens here in a second, where our Viper here is just going to walk up, and in a second, it's just going to come with the wall up and destroy it. Nice Killjoy setup. Now it's gone. We've still got plenty of time left in the round, and now you're in trouble again. Now let's come to the very next round, and okay, Killjoy didn't work. Let's be super aggressive. Let's see how that goes.
That's United in this tournament, man, or in this last day of ours, birthed through contact. Oh, that siege is going to put a dent into the HP of Marky, and he pays the price. They're really committing to this fight already, even throwing out the Hunter's Fury, while Oreo cannot find a tag. No refrag whatsoever, and such big resources put just to try to get something for nothing.
Yeah, all for naught here for Oasis Gaming. They put in the 100, they effectively get 0, and the snake bite now making Draxy's life harder. He's forced to just push.
Yeah, that didn't work either, did it? And guess what? You're running through a Viper setup. You're going to get decayed. You're already at a pretty big disadvantage when you do that. Okay, so that didn't work either. So, okay, instead of putting our Killjoy turret there, let's put our Jet here instead, right? That's the way we managed to beat this.
Of course, a well-timed Prowler is always going to catch him off guard, and there it is. Goes up above. What do you think so? Fischio, though. Oh, no! Draxy gets caught.
And so, sure, the Jet did manage to live there, but of course, again, this is a really difficult place to play, and again, I love the combo with the Fade Prowler. This Jet maybe gets a bit fortunate to survive that fight, but again, where is that Jet gonna go, even with a dash in this position, right? Like, this is my wall. I choose when it goes up and down, not you. It's not cover for you, right? And even if you do go through, you're taking decay, maybe you get spammed. There's not really anywhere to escape from this angle anyway. Now let's talk about their Viper Orb as well here, Fancy United, because they were putting it in A main. You're about to see it in just a second, and they were using it, as you'll see here, to cross into Wine and come and check and clear this corner. Now, as I pointed out for some of the reasons earlier, I'm not sure that this is, you know, truly necessary. One of the benefits you have of using the orb that they did is that they were often picking it up and then, you know, using it for a post plant in here or back here, right? So they were getting use of it in the post plant as well, which is good. If you didn't like this orb and you felt like this was a bit unnecessary, maybe a bit overkill, you can still come and do a lineup from down here and get this orb into mid, kind of like the loud orb we saw earlier. So really, either of those I think is fine. And look, I didn't love what Fancy United were doing on the defensive side with Viper. That side still definitely needs some work in terms of figuring out. But we're one half of the way there for Viper meta on Ascent, because I really do think that that wall is very, very strong, particularly when paired with agents like Fade. Even I think with the KO knife that checks towards A as well could be very potent with that wall. I think that's a scary setup to have to deal with for the defenders.